This is what you wanted from your star player out of the gate when you're down 0-2.
They say success is the best revenge. Heard they was sleeping.
Nails the three. It's an Edwards eruption here in the first.
Back and I'm better than ever before. Don't get it mistaken, I'm ready for war.
30 points for the Ant-Man. The Timberwolves with a convincing dominant win. And this series is now 2-1.
A Game 3 statement in Minnesota. The Wolves up 31 at the half. 13-year NBA veteran Quentin Richardson, Anscape senior writer David Dennis Jr. joining us now on SportsCenter. Q, starting with you. Wolves showed last night they weren't ready to pack it up. What stood out most to you from Game 3?
What stood out most to me was that they came out with the proper sense of urgency. They knew that this was a game that they could go down 3-0, which nobody has come out from. Their superstar Ant-Man started from the very beginning of the game. He made it an emphasis to come out with energy, to be offensively aggressive. He was scoring the ball. They gave their fans something to be involved. The fans were in it from start to finish. That Target Center was loud. It was crazy in there. And the team gave them something to cheer about from start to finish. From the starters to the guys that came off the bench, they did everything they needed to do in the Game 3 to send the message to OKC that this series is not over. You guys simply did what you needed to do on your home court, and now we're going to do the same.
Yeah, Q, I'm with you with that intensity, but I want to talk about the intensity on the defensive end from what we saw from that Minnesota Timberwolves squad. They were hitting those passing lanes. They were at the point of attack. Rudy Gobert was moving up on those guards. His hands were active. He was getting, as you see with that steal right there, he was getting at it. And they had an interesting strategy there. They moved back on their point of attack with SGA and Jalen Williams. They were really getting SGA at the half-court line on the first two games. They made him come up before they put that defensive pressure on him, which sounds counterintuitive, but it forced him into uncomfortable threes and shots like that. And the Thunder were not hitting those threes early. The turnovers were bad in that first half. 12 made field goals, 9 turnovers, and a lot of that is that Minnesota defense gave the Thunder something to think about when they come back in Game 4.
And Minnesota never took their foot off the gas. They scored at least 34 points in every quarter. David, for OKC, we talk about youth a lot, you know, how impressive it is for this bona fide championship contender. Was this just a bad loss, or was it a bad sign for the Thunder?
So it's just a bad loss for now because I do think they're still the better team, but this is indicative of a team that's learning how to be great. And I look at Game 3s as chances for teams to show their greatness. You're up 2-0 a lot of times when you're a great team, and you can close the door on another team in those Game 3s on the road. And what we've seen from OKC so far in the playoff were subpar Game 3s. They were down 30 against the Grizzlies until Ja Morant got hurt. They lost in overtime against the Nuggets, and they just did not show that killer instinct. Like, look at this play is indicative of that. At the end of the first quarter, you're down 19, you're trying to mount a comeback, and you walk the ball up and get an 8-second violation. To me, that is a sign of a team that took their foot off the gas and was not as focused as they should. SGA, 4 field goals made, 4 turnovers, and only 4 free throws. They did not have that killer instinct intensity that you need in a Game 3 to close the door on a team that you should feel that you're better than.
Yeah, I agree with 2 Chainz here, man. This was just a bad loss right now for me. Until something else happens and something worse happens, it was just one game, and that's how OKC has to look at it. I mean, yes, it was a horrible, horrible performance, a lopsided victory. They got thumped last night. Nowhere around it. They played bad. Minnesota played great. OKC has to keep it at that. This was one game. No matter if we lost by 1 point or by 50 points, it only counts for 1. Now they got to regroup, come back Game 4, and they have to come out there on the Minnesota Timberwolves home court with the sense of urgency and do what they have to do to get it done.
Another subpar Game 3. How have they bounced back in previous Game 4s? Against Memphis, completed the sweep. Against Denver, Game 4 in Denver, held the Nuggets to 87 points. We'll get the answer Game 4 tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. David, Q, thank you.
Phil and Amina back here with you on SportsCenter, and that's the sound of Wolves in the background. Game 3, Thunder taking on the Timberwolves. The Wolves getting contributions in areas they didn't get in Games 1 and 2. Hartenstein here with the miss. Anthony Edwards gets the loose ball, takes it the other way. You know he was feeling it in this game. Edwards again with the steal, taking it down for another dunk. Edwards did not have a dunk in the first 2 games of this series. He had 2 in the first quarter. That means that Anthony Edwards, he was in his Birkin, as the kids say. Let's take a look at some of the supporting cast. Terrence Shannon Jr. came in, making his presence felt. Finishes with the floater. Then Shannon gets the fast break. Finishes on the other end with the layup, had 9 points in the first half, 3 of 5 from the field. Shannon had 2 total points in this series entering game 3. How about Naz Reid? Gets the 3 to go. And then Edwards swinging it to Reid, knocks down another 3. He was 0 for 12 from beyond the arc in the first 2 games of this series. He finished with 2 of 2 from 3 in the first half. How about Julius Randle on defense? With a closeout contest on Jalen Williams, forcing a miss right there. Randle switches on SGA, gets the contest right there on a step-back jumper. Randle held OKC to 4-12 from the field on a primary defender. They win this one. Here's the NBA Countdown crew.
Well, gentlemen, we just watched a tale of 2 entirely different teams. I thought we knew who the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Wolves were, and they seem to have Freaky Friday'd in this game, Stephen A. What did you learn about Minnesota?
I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Let's let the world know that. I mean, I thought that they were going to come in here.
Finally.
Well, I'm an honest man.
Yes.
It's a rare moment. Hold on to it, my brother. Hold on to it. The bottom line is I expected the Minnesota Timberwolves to come in here looking at a team that couldn't put the ball on the floor, couldn't really score from the perimeter, was getting pushed off the three-point line, didn't know what to do. And they hit 50% of their threes in game 3. 20 of 40. They shot 50%, better than 50% from the field. I didn't recognize this team tonight compared to what we saw in games 1 and 2. But hats off to them. Ant-Man led the charge because he came out ultra aggressive. Julius Randle was putting the ball on the floor. Naz Reid and them came off the bench, and they were making things happen. They deserve a lot of credit, and hopefully this wasn't a one-off. They show up and play like this in game 4, we've got ourselves a series.
So what we saw tonight was the A-plus version of the Timberwolves. Now the question is, they don't have to do this, and I don't expect this to happen again, 40 points, victory. But they got it. They had a D, D minus, C minus in Oklahoma City.
Right.
So can they show up on Monday with a B, B plus, A minus? Doesn't have to be this. But they can't. I don't see this happening again. But they did it when they had to do it.
Right.
And the Thunder, conversely, that was I don't know what that was, because that's not what we saw in Oklahoma City.
That's not what we're used to.
For me, understand why you win or why you lose. They didn't turn the ball over tonight. Julius Randle got going, and their bench was outstanding. Chris Finch went to Terrence Shannon Jr.
Yes.
9 points in that second quarter. Huge coaching move by Finchy. Great job.
Yep.
And his guy delivered for him.
Terrence Shannon Jr. outscored anybody on the Thunder squad. That's what we're talking about in this game.
I mean, look, he was new in the rotation, right? He probably wasn't even in the scouting report, so that's what ended up happening. You come in, and all of a sudden you just hit them by surprise. But again, I'm looking at this Minnesota team, and I compare them to like an iPhone, right? Like
in what way?
Hear me out. To iPhone.
We will. We'll try.
I know.
We'll see.
They signal been weak. You know why? Because they tower been down. You know who's been that tower this entire season, this entire postseason? It's been Julius Randle. All of a sudden, he come out, he had a plus 38. Now, all of a sudden, them bars, them signals are stronger. You can hear me a little bit louder on the cell phone now. That's what I'm looking at tonight. And he responded in great fashion after getting benched in the fourth quarter.
Right.
He didn't feel sorry for himself. He came out there, he competed. I saw him getting engaged with the fans. He was dabbing up his teammates. True professional.
That's nice, and we're going to see how OKC responds to that now, because what were we raving about coming into this game? How elite their defense was. It was non-existent in game 3. What's going to happen in game 4
I
on the
will
road?
say,
We'll see.
we were all standing back there in the back hallways of this arena as the Timberwolves were coming back in. There was no whooping, there was no hollering, there was no celebrating. This was the business that they expected to take care of, and now we move on to game 4.
Strictly business.
This is what you wanted from your star player out of the gate when you're down 0-2.
They say success is the best revenge. Heard they was sleeping.
Nails the 3. It's an Edwards eruption here in the first.
Back and I'm better than ever before. Don't get it mistaken, I'm ready for war.
30 points for the Ant-Man. The Timberwolves with a convincing dominant win. And this series is now 2-1.
Pistons head coach JB Bickerstaff joins us now on SportsCenter. And Coach, we saw the Wolves jump all over the Thunder right out the gates. 34 points at a minimum in every quarter, a complete reversal from what we saw in the first 2 games of the series. What stood out to you most from Minnesota in Game 3?
To me, it was clear. Coach Finch's message to his team was we were going to be aggressive defensively. And when you take a look at the game, even Rudy Gobert, who's typically back in his pick and roll coverage, was up and aggressive on the ball. You see him there getting the deflection and then getting them out in transition. And I think that was their point. They were going to be very, very aggressive, put 2 guys on the ball every time SGA had it. I think they took a page out of Oklahoma City's defense as well. They were shrinking the floor, even from the strong side corners, forcing those guys to make extra passes. And then obviously Anthony Edwards was unbelievable in his attack. I think he sent the message to his teammates that we're getting after it tonight.
And SGA even said post-game, it's hard to get your offense going when you're constantly picking the ball out of your own net. But with OKC, I mean, you know as well as anyone what it's like to have a young team grow and get through growing pains. Game 4 tomorrow is going to be in an absolute hornet's nest in Minneapolis. Was Game 3 a bad loss or a bad sign for the Thunder?
I think it was just a bad loss. You know, we've seen how capable they are. We've seen how well coached they are, how well they're led by SGA. Their role players are phenomenal. Jalen Williams has been great in this series. So, again, it's one of those things where you have to feel the urgency that a team that's down 0-2 is going to bring. And then you understand what you have to do and how you have to raise your level to the competition so that you can get a win on the road, you know, against a team whose back is against the wall.
Coach, quickly, what adjustment would you make if you were OKC?
Again, I thought they got good looks, but you just have to be aware for the 2 on the ball. And now you have to understand how you get the ball out of your hands a little quicker. You put the ball in the hands of your big guy a little bit more, and now he's playing advantage basketball. Once you get their bigs up the floor, then you can play 4-on-3, and with the amount of shooting that they have, they're going to create easy opportunities for themselves.
So much intrigue now heading into Game 4 tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Coach J.B. Bickerstaff, thanks so much for joining us here this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.